Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Today's presentation is called Healing the Addicted Brain, Cutting Edge Science in Brain Neurochemistry. My name is Sarah Scarda, and I am going to be the webinar coordinator for Orion Healthcare, and I will be your organizer for today's event. Before we get started, I want to review a few housekeeping items and let you know how you can best participate in today's web event. The tool we are using is called GoToWebinar. The GoToWebinar control panel you see on the right of your screen can be minimized and expanded by pressing the orange arrow. Doing this will allow you to see your entire screen during the presentation. Remember that you can always reopen it by pressing the orange arrow again. This presentation is being recorded and will be posted on our website on your screen for later viewing. All attendees for the live broadcast have entered in listen-only mode. This means that your microphones are muted, so we will not be able to hear you during the presentation. However, you do have the ability to send questions to our staff or to the presenter through the questions panel during the presentation. Simply type in your question and click send. Due to time restraints, we will not be able to answer your questions live during the presentation, but we'll collect your questions and post answers on our website. Today's webinar is made possible through the collaboration of NADAC and the Association for Addiction Professionals and Orion Healthcare Technology. The webinar is one of many in our monthly Blueprints to Better Care 2012 webinar series. We are striving to provide you with continuing education that is convenient, relevant, free, and of the highest quality. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. As I just mentioned, the education delivered in today's webinar is free to all professionals. If you wish to receive free CE credit for participating, you must pass the online CE quiz that is located at either web address on your screen. One CE is free to NADAC members and AccuCare subscribers who participate in this webinar. Non-members of a NADAC or non-subscribers of AccuCare receive one CE for $15. This includes everyone, those who are logged in today for the live event, as well as those who have downloaded the archived version. Either way, you are eligible to receive CE credit for participating in this webinar. After you pass the online CE quiz, a certificate of completion will be emailed to you within 21 days of submission. To be crystal clear out there, successfully passing the CE quiz is the only way to receive a CE certificate. With that said, let me tell you a bit about our presenter today. Dr. Harold Urschel is the Chief Medical Strategist at InterHealth LLC, which is an addiction disease management company. He is one of the most influential and coveted speakers nationally on a substance abuse and the latest opportunities that exist today to treat the disease of addiction. He has guided InterHealth to create the world's finest residential and outpatient treatment programs for treating alcohol and drug addiction, recognized by industry publications, peers, national talk show hosts, and even competitors. Dr. Urschel is also founder of InterHealth Outpatient Center of Excellence, formerly Urschel Institute of Recovery Science, based in Dallas, Texas. He has incorporated his visionary approach to treating addiction to the New York Times bestseller, Healing the Addicted Brain, a must-read for individuals who want to better understand the chronic disease of addiction. We are so delighted to have Dr. Urschel with us today. So without further ado, Dr. Urschel, if you are ready, I will hand it over to you.
I'm all ready to go. Thank you so much. I am very honored to be here, and welcome to everybody that's listening. My goal today is to really make a difference in how you approach addiction and treating this chronic brain disease with your clients, and help you to communicate it more effectively to their families. Just a little bit about my background. I'm an addiction psychiatrist practicing here in Dallas, Texas. I did a 2-year fellowship in addiction psychiatry at University of Pennsylvania, where I learned a lot of what we're going to discuss today, and I've continued learning and doing research in the field. A little bit about what I do daily, just to get a little bit of street cred here with the audience. I actually run an addiction treatment program, sort of a health system here in Dallas that focuses on treating alcohol and drug addiction and anything that's associated with medical diseases, the psychiatric diseases, et cetera. We have a residential facility, an outpatient facility, and we're always trying to take the latest science, the latest scientific information from the NIH and integrate it into our daily care, which is something I hope each of you listening will try and do on a going forward basis if you're not already doing so. And you know, it's really not that hard to do once you understand the parameters and the pieces of the puzzle that you need to help your that your patients engage with, and that should be a lot more, much more clear by the end of our talk. So we're going to talk about the brain science of addiction, and hopefully this is not new for a lot of you. If it is, great. One of my goals is always to try and spread the word of this information, and in the sense to create hope that you really can beat this disease of alcohol and drug addiction. There's so much hopelessness out in our country at all levels, the military, the churches, the medical community, even the treatment community, and especially the patients and their families. They've seen people they love, people they cared about, people that are important to them in their companies, or their college friends or whatever, go to treatment and continue to have very aggressive, destructive relapses as a consequence of having this disease and not handling it effectively. So we're going to talk about some of the pharmacotherapy, some of the medications, although we're going to talk a lot more than just about the medicines. Some of the medicines that have come online recently are still a little bit, people are a little hesitant to use them at times. Other times they're not hesitant to use them, they don't know really how to access them. So we'll talk about that, and then at the end, how do we tie all this stuff together? All the different points we're going to talk about. What are the pieces that you need to make sure that your clients are getting, that your clients and their families are getting in order to be able to successfully manage the disease of addiction over the lifespan of the individual? That's what we try and do here at InnerHealth. That's what I hope each of you will do after you finish this webinar. So let's go to the sexy stuff. Let's go to the brain. This is, if you've never seen it, this is a single brain cell, a neuron, and it's blown up, highly magnified under an electron microscope. And it's usually not, this green, yellow-green color unless you live next, I guess, to a toxic waste dump. It's usually red with blood flowing through it, et cetera. And different neurons will interface with each other. And how the two connect, as we'll learn in a second, is really key. And these are two real brain cells. This is a picture of brain cells, sort of a cartoon. Not necessarily how they're looking, but you can see these two cells are trying to connect, and you can see the fragility and the complexity that's there. As you're listening to me today, you may be typing, you may be texting, you may be doing multitasking like a lot of us do when you're on the seminars, but you're actually doing all those things using your brain. Your brain is allowing you to be aware of the sensation of clothes in your body, whether you just ate or whether you skipped lunch and you're now getting kind of hungry or you're thirsty. All these billions and billions of cells are coordinating through this interface here. This is the interface of a cartoon of a single neuron where one neuron connects with another, called a synapse, as everybody knows, hopefully. And chemicals, neurotransmitters, dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin, and electricity, the electrical charges that the receptors activate, are how you are experiencing this webinar today and how you're experiencing your whole day. Even when you're sleeping, things are firing. So chemicals and electricity in a very fragile, very powerful neural network is how we interface with our day-to-day lives. Now, when you take and think of this picture right here as spider webs, and you just move your hand in there and just kind of move and just kind of take your hand as my pointer, and you're just kind of moving back and forth and kind of messing up the spider webs. Well, that's kind of what alcohol and drugs do. They actually injure the system. And so here's a picture here of this is actually a SPECT image, as you can see here, and this is a way to measure how the brain functions. This is courtesy of Dr. Amen, who's sort of a pioneer in looking at this technology. And this is measuring the brain's blood flow, looking at oxygen use and sugar use, or glucose. So the two main fuels of your brain, oxygen and sugar, this scan is looking at those. And so over here on the left side is a single picture of a person that has a normal brain. Now, they had to actually scan 2,000 or 3,000 people to find that normal brain, which means that this type of imaging still needs a lot more work and understanding, kind of like when they first developed the CAT scan or the MRI. It took them a while to figure out how to really use it in day-to-day settings. But over here, these three pictures are of a different person in the map, but all three of these pictures are the same person. This is a 38-year-old male with 17 years of heavy weekend alcohol use. Is he an alcoholic? Don't know. Theoretically, you could drink alcohol probably on the weekends and not be an alcoholic. You could be a heavy user or abuser and not have the disease. But obviously, This brain over here looks very differently from this brain. This person, we're looking at it from their stomach. If you're looking up from your stomach towards your brain, that's the bottom. This is from the front, from the side. And if you look at the front, you can see this is supposed to be like, this is actually supposed to kind of curve up like an egg or, say, a watermelon. But it's almost like this person had a crew cut. The problem is it's not their hair, it's their brain. And this part, the frontal part of their brain, which is right here, should also be kind of moving up, okay, kind of a smooth area. It's kind of flat. And when you see this right side surface, when you see the front part of the brain, this is the area where the frontal lobes reside. The frontal lobes are the parts of your brain that handle what they call your executive functioning, responsible for planning, motivation, multitasking, insight, judgment. And look, this part of it, they're just not there, okay? I mean, and the point of this slide is to show that alcohol is very toxic to that fragile neuronal cell architecture. And luckily, now when you look at this brain, you feel kind of hopeless. Boy, I really messed up my brain. Well, let's just take an example. Say this hole right here. That's not like you took an ice cream scoop and just scooped out a little part of that brain and kind of threw it away. No, this hole here means that this part of the brain is not actually metabolizing oxygen or glucose. I'm not sure exactly which, but that just shows this part of the brain is not working effectively. Think of it now as a bad write sector on a hard drive. On a computer's hard drive, this needs some major disk utilities, major reformatting in this area, and the whole brain is like that. So when you come back over here to the frontal lobes are essentially gone. They're still there, but they're not functioning. They are offline. And so this is very important. The brain is injured by the alcohol and the drugs. That injury causes the addiction, but also that injury can reboot and heal itself. But for alcohol alone, if you become an alcoholic and you stop drinking, it can take 4 to 12 months to come back in the brain to reboot enough so that you can function fairly normally. I didn't say days. I didn't say 4 to 12 days or weeks. I said 4 to 12 months. Okay? Now, it's better than 4 to 12 years, but 4 to 12 months. So a long time, 30, 60, 90 days, the frontal lobes are still not going to be impaired. So when you're asking patients to actually have insight or judgment to make a decision, do you want this medicine or not? Do you want to go to this meeting or not? Do you want to have a sponsor or not? Do you want to get on this antidepressant or not? You're asking them questions like their brain is not injured. When you're looking at them from the outside, not in their brain, when you're looking at them from the outside face on, they look normal. After they've showered, they've had some food, their clothes are at least maybe not pressed, but they're clean, and they make eye contact with you, they smile, but at the same time, they don't have the ability to fully process all the incoming data and effectively make the right decisions over time. And therefore, that's when, at the time, when you're trying to teach them, if you're running an IOP or individual therapy, if you're taking an addict or an alcoholic who has been sober for 21 days or 30 days or 45 days, you're teaching them data, you're teaching them information that's really key to their recovery. They may not be able to process it like you and me, and so that's why repetition is so key. But this slide is meant to show that this brain is injured. Okay, this is a true chronic brain disease. Now, this is another really interesting slide. This is actually a slide of a summary of a study by Dr. Hugh Myrick and Ray Anton, published in the Archives of General Psychiatry in 2008, so you're welcome to look that up. These are two brilliant addiction researchers at Medical University of South Carolina, and they did a different type of imaging, fMRI. Now, the fMRI is an MRI that also looks at brain function. And they compared social drinkers, okay, to alcoholics. Social drinkers are people that don't drink, that drink, they can drink by themselves, they can drink in groups. They just means you're drinking alcohol and you don't have addiction. You're not an abuser, you're not an addict, you're just a regular drinker. So they looked at social drinkers, they put them in the MRI scanner, and they had them look at pictures, neutral pictures and alcohol pictures. And obviously, this is the neutral picture of a chair. Unless that's your drinking chair, that's not going to stimulate beer or stimulate cravings. However, this if you're an alcoholic and you look at this beer, well, that may stimulate cravings. But when they actually looked at the scans in the area where your dopamine systems are, which is right here in this kind of green circular window, this is where your reward system is, and we'll look at that from a different view in a second. When they looked at the social drinkers with either one of these pictures, nothing happened. This is a negative test. So they then took, they then put a certain number of alcoholics in the scanner, and when they showed the alcoholic the chair, again, nothing happened. When they showed the alcoholic the beer, look what happened. A high activation signal, okay, right smack dab in the middle of the limbic system. So basically dopamine is being released by just a picture. This alcoholic is minding his or her own business in the scanner. They're not drinking alcohol, but they see the picture and this part of the brain is activated, not like a normal part of the brain. So this is showing you that the alcoholic brain is different than the brain of a social drinker, which is huge. So alcoholics are different. We have real life hard data, hard scientific data showing that, okay? And also, what you're seeing, as I said, physiological craving. So the alcoholic can no more stop the craving from occurring when they see this picture of beer. This is a physiological functioning, just like your heart beating or your blood pressure going up or down or your blood sugar going up or down based on your insulin. This is a physiological effect caused by the injured center, the injured area, the injured limbic system, okay? So craving is physiological. It's not a moral weakness, but it is an important part of recovery. I mean, an important part of continuation of the disease. Now, they then took, the physicians then put these alcoholics on oral naltrexone. We scanned them in about, I think it was either 4 or 5 days later, and basically once the naltrexone was in their blood and in their brain and had been there for a few days, they looked at the beer, they turned this brain into that. They looked at the beer and the cravings went away. Pretty powerful stuff. So this is showing you the alcoholic brain is different. We know where the disease resides now. It's right here in the limbic system. We can see physiological craving in real time, and you can remove this craving by using some of the pharmacological medications that we'll be discussing later. So how do you put all this together? Well, in a comprehensive treatment approach, you're going to have, this is the cortex part of the brain. Up here is the frontal lobes that are here intact. And look, as a refresher, the frontal lobes focusing on decision-making, thinking, reasoning, rationalizing. Anytime a patient is in your office or your program and you're doing any of the talking-based therapies, you're going to be working on the logic system in the cortex. So you're going to talk about the patient not using alcohol anymore so they don't lose their liver, their spouse, their job, their freedom by the next DWI. All those things make sense. The cortex, even though it may be injured, is able to process it. The problem is the disease where you saw the orange dot is actually in here. And all the talking therapy in the world is not going to impact this. This is not a logic-based center. This is the part of the brain that makes you eat food so you don't starve, that you drink water so you don't die of thirst, where your sexual pleasure centers are so you have sex to perpetuate the species. This is an evolutionarily old, non-logic-based, rather an emotionally charged area. And this is the part of the brain that's injured by the alcohol and drugs in the short-circuiting. The medications, different types of medicines, Vivitrol, Camprel, Suboxone, all those go in here and work on this. They don't necessarily go out here and work on all the things that you're teaching them. So you don't need to, you can't just use medicines to treat this. You can't just use talking therapy and all these things to treat them. You need everything. All right. So also very important. A lot of people on the call. Look, 12-step fellowship. So if you're going to AA is still, even though it's a great fellowship-based, sober-based peer support system, which does great work, it's still talking therapy. The AA is not going to treat the limbic system. So that alone by itself, or even a majority focus on that, is not going to be sufficient to treat the illness. You need all this. Okay. So again, Dr. Urschel, I'm not saying you need all these medications by themselves. You can't have this. You need the whole thing. We'll talk about why. So alcoholism is a chronic medical disease. Think of it like cancer. It's deadly. So alcoholism, it's deadly if you get it and you don't get treated, just like cancer. If you get the right treatment, it could still come back at any time. Okay, so it's going to be there. Other medical diseases that are similar, asthma, diabetes, high blood pressure. I love to focus on diabetes because with diabetes, you need insulin to help regulate your blood sugar. If you're in diabetes, the organ that's injured is the pancreas, and you need medication. But you can't just take insulin with diabetes, can you? If you did that and you kept eating birthday cake and ice cream and didn't lose weight and all the other stuff you're supposed to do, the insulin wouldn't work very well. Your diabetes would still be unregulated. The same thing with some of those other anti-addiction medications. You can't just take those and expect them to do all the work. As much as everybody would like that to happen, it's just not possible. So it is a chronic medical disease. That means you cannot stop treating it at 30 days, at 60 days, at 90 days. It's another one of the many benefits of the 12-step program. You can stay engaged in that process for years and decades, et cetera. And you can do that also with psychotherapy and individuals' different types of support components that we'll discuss later. So if you have a chronic disease, which you do if you have alcohol and drug addiction, treatment does work, but it's when it's delivered correctly. You can't just treat alcoholism with detox, right? You can't just treat it with 30 days of treatment. You can't just treat it with 90 meetings in 90 days and that's it. No, you need to keep going and deliver the treatment. Also, remember that brain, the SPECT scan with all the holes in the brain. I mean, they're not non-literal holes. They were more metabolic holes. The brain controls not only your thinking and your cognitive processes, it also controls your mood states. So when your brain's that messed up, you're going to get a lot of dysregulation on the depression and psychiatric side. So many times, a person with alcohol drug addiction does not have access to a psychiatrist, because a lot of times the programs won't have access to a psychiatrist. That doesn't mean they don't need to go see one. Okay, look, depression. 75% of up to 75% of all alcoholics have depression. Anxiety disorders are a major cause of cravings and relapse. And sometimes anxiety disorders are caused by the addiction. Sometimes they were there first. Sometimes anxiety is just there. It's real heavy for a few weeks after you get sober. The important thing is they need to be assessed, and if there is a problem, you need to treat it. The same way as if I had a heart attack and the doctors found that I had high blood pressure and high cholesterol, that makes sense, right? I have high blood pressure and high cholesterol. I have a heart attack. What if the doctor only gave me Lipitor and didn't treat for my cholesterol and didn't treat my high blood pressure and sent me out of the hospital? That wouldn't make any sense at all. But I can't tell you how often we hear and see people that have not had access or not been referred to psychiatric facilities or psychiatric providers. So, and one of the problems is a lot of psychiatric providers don't understand addiction. That's not the reason not to send them. We need to educate them as well. So the idea here in order to treat the complex disorder of substance dependence is you need a three-legged stool. You need treatment, which is that you need to teach them new coping skills to deal with stress, which is kind of all the talking therapies. You need medications to help the limbic system and the injured parts of the brain reboot. And at the same time, you also need wellness and nutrition and all the different components of that: stress management, vitamins, good nutrition, exercise, all that, because all of this over here will allow your body to help accelerate its own healing. Just like you've seen or have friends that went through hopefully successfully cancer treatment. They get the radiation and the chemotherapy, and then while they're doing that and after, they're very healthy, right? They're exercising, they're taking the right vitamins because they're wanting to help their body reboot, rebuild, reboot their immune system. Well, in addiction, we want to help them reboot their brain, and it is possible. So let's drill down into alcohol. Alcohol is the third leading cause of death. I hope people already know that, behind cancer and heart disease. The third leading cause of death, killing over 100,000 Americans a year. Yet many hospital healthcare systems, at least many in Dallas, don't have any treatment programs for alcohol and drug addiction. That doesn't make sense. Every hospital I know treats cardiac, diabetes, asthma, but so few hospitals treat alcohol and drugs because number one, physicians are not educated in how you treat addiction. So if there's any physicians on this call, great. Chances are they're not. And so you're going to know a lot more than most physicians you're going to interact with about addiction. That's why you need to help educate them and educate your clients about what to ask your physicians for. Okay? But the idea is if most hospital healthcare systems don't have treatment for the third leading cause of death, something's majorly wrong. This is just a reminder in regards to alcohol. Different alcohol beverages have different amounts of alcoholic content. Very important when you're taking a history. If you're taking 2 drinks a day, well, what is that? If it's 2 glasses of wine, well, is it a glass of wine in this, or is it a glass of wine in a 44-ounce big gulp cup? You don't know. So the idea is make sure you're trying to understand how many drinks a day somebody really is taking, because that can give you a lot of data. This is an important scan. This is an important concept right here. Alcohol puts you to sleep. It puts your brain to sleep literally. Now this is a PET scan here, and this is looking at the brain, a person that's sober, and this is after 2 drinks. It's either 2 or 3 drinks, I can't remember. Look at the difference. We know alcohol is an anesthetic. This is just showing you that it is. So when you become intoxicated, so many of your brain functions go offline. That's why people do stupid stuff when they're drinking. That's why they may do things they would never think of doing when they're sober, because a lot of their higher cortical functions are actually literally put to sleep. So let's talk about we're going to have 2 areas where we have an audience polling question. The polls are now open. Why don't you answer the question here? Do you think that alcohol is a toxic substance? We'll wait here for about 15, 20 seconds. Okay, just a couple more seconds here. All right, why don't we see those poll results here? And the poll results, the poll is over. Let's see here if we go. We can go move forward. Great. I think we'll see the results of that poll here in a little bit. Now, the answer is, of course, yes. Alcohol is very toxic to the brain. In fact, it's very toxic to all organs. Let me give you an example. Let's just say theoretically I like to go backpacking in Colorado, and if I go with one of my best buddies, let's say from work, and we like to go camping and fishing. In the summer we drive from Dallas to Colorado. We get to the parking lot up in Colorado. We have our backpacks. We're going to go for a 3-day outing. Fishing and hiking up in the Rocky Mountains. So it's a 6-hour hike from the parking lot up to the lake. 3 hours into the hike, we just have our backpacks. I fall, cut my arm really badly. We stop the bleeding. I asked my partner to have him come over, and let's just call him John. So John comes over and says, what do we need to do? Well, let's get the first aid kits out. We look for the first aid kits. They're not in the backpack. Neither my coworker John or I are alcoholics, so we do have a bottle of Jim Beam in the backpack. We're going to drink around the fire. No problem with that. So John says, all we have is a bottle of Jim Beam. So let's say we've stopped the bleeding. What could we do with the Jim Beam? Well, obviously you could pour it on the cut, right? And what would it do? 2 things. It would clean the wound because it's an anesthetic, and it cleans the wound because it kills the cells. It kills the bacteria or cells. 2, it would actually anesthetize the wound, so it puts you to sleep. So let's just say my arm's okay. We put a compress on it from my shirt, and I said, well, we've driven all this way. Let's just see how it goes. So we go on up to the lake. We're sitting around. We pitch our tents. We catch some great fish, cook them around the fire, and after dinner, in our canteen cups, we pour a little Jim Beam into the canteen cup. Now what do? We drink it. We drink an anesthetic. We drink an antiseptic. We're drinking the antiseptic for the anesthetic properties. But just like it killed all the cells in my wound, it's killing all kinds of cells in my brain and body. So alcohol basically injures every major organ system in your body. Now, the alcohol companies spend billions of dollars a year to help keep you from realizing this fact. But if you look at the overall part of the body, you're seeing from an alcohol standpoint that pretty much every major organ system, from increased cancer risk all the way down the GI tract to bone issues to pain perception to liver, cardiovascular, it's a very toxic substance. So what kinds of medications do we have to treat this? Well, right now we have 4 medications that are FDA approved to treat alcoholism. We have some that are off-label, but we'll just stick to these 4 right now. Antabuse is the one that makes you sick. You take it once a day. Now, Naltrexone is a tablet that's been around for a long time. If you take it, and after about 3 days, once a day, it will do 3 things. It will decrease cravings for alcohol by up to 90%. It will keep you from feeling intoxicated or drunk, and it will decrease the number of beers you do drink. So a very good medicine. Camprol on the other, another one is Camprol. Now, Camprol you have to take 6 tablets a day. The problem with that is that patients get these messages they're really sick. It's not true at all. Camprol you have to take 6 tablets a day only because you only absorb 10% of every tablet into your stomach. So to get the 200 milligrams a day you need for it to work, you got to take 2,000 milligrams a day. That's the only reason you have to take so many pills. It's not, none of these are addicting. And the Camprel doesn't actually keep you from getting drunk or anything, but it takes about 8, 10, 12 weeks before it even works. Once it starts working, it seems to accelerate the healing of the brain. So the naltrexone keeps the alcohol out, but it doesn't accelerate the healing. The Camprel doesn't keep alcohol out, but it does accelerate the healing. So combining these two would make a lot of sense. The problem is all three of these here together, they're all defective, because if you don't take the pill, it's not going to work. I mean, there's something inherent about pills. If you don't take them, they don't work. So therefore, naltrexone also comes in an extended release form in a product called Vivitrol, and this is a seriously superior product compared to this one. But if you look, it's the same medicine. It's just a lot less medicine than this per day, and it also has the benefit of, for once you get it once a month, you can't get drunk for the entire month, which is great. Benefit of Vivitrol is this, for everybody listening on the phone. And by the way, I'm not being paid by Vivitrol. I don't have any stock in it, and I never will. But this product medicalizes the disease. This is the paradigm changer that our industry needs. You have a shot for alcoholism. It also works for opiate addiction, by the way. We'll get into that. But you have a shot that actually treats this. Now, by itself, it doesn't work, just like any of the other pills. But you pair this with 12-step and psychiatric treatment and family therapy and wellness and nutrition, all those things together, a very, very powerful tool to bring to the battle with us as treatment providers. Vivitrol has been out since 2006. It has all the same benefits as I talked about oral naltrexone does. One injection lasts for 30 days. And the great thing is all insurance plans that I know of now, in most states, I don't know, there may be a few states out there that does it, they pay for 100% of the cost. So if you have insurance, you get on Vivitrol, the insurance will pay for the Vivitrol, and the company will pay for your copay. So as long as you're on Vivitrol, there's never a dollar of cost, and even in a lot of states, it's now being paid for within the Medicaid system. A real advantage of Vivitrol is if you look at this graph, you see these up and down gray spikes. This is if you take that oral pill, the oral naltrexone. It goes up, goes down the next day. You got to take the pill up and down. You take the shot of Vivitrol here on 1 month. The beginning of the month, it goes up and it lasts all the way through the month out here to 30 days. And the beauty of Vivitrol is because it goes into the body, the bloodstream a different way, it bypasses the liver, you only need a quarter of the oral dose. So the oral dose is 50 milligrams a day. It's 1 tablet, oral 50 milligrams. Times 30 days is 1,500 milligrams per month, right? So 1,500 milligrams per month. Well, the shot is only 380 milligrams per month. So you only need 1/4 of the oral dose, but it gives you 4 times the brain levels, and you can't stop it. I've had patients I've switched from oral naltrexone to Vivitrol. Almost uniformly, they say, "Doctor, this works better. My cravings are even more suppressed." And again, they don't have to worry about trying to remember to take the pill every day. So let's jump into marijuana. Polling question number 2. Do you think that marijuana is addictive? Let's answer the question there on the screen. Give you a few seconds. Okay, now maybe 5 more seconds here. Okay, why don't we go ahead and close? And the answer is yes, pot is addicting. There are so many people out there that saying pot isn't addicting. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Let's talk about the real negative aspects of pot. There's 250 different substances in the marijuana smoke. THC is only one of them. So the other 249 differ depending on what kind of pesticides it was treated with, what other kind of chemicals it was processed with. It's a very toxic system. The THC from one joint takes 7 days to get out of the body. But if you're using daily, once you stop the joints, if you've been using daily, it takes 42 days to get all the marijuana out of your body. Okay? But because of that, once you stop marijuana, if you're a chronic daily user, your withdrawal won't start for 3 weeks. I'm not saying that it's going to last 3 weeks. It won't even start for 21, 22 days. And if you know most drug addicts and alcoholics, you know even a day is a long time. 3 weeks is an eon to them. And so they stop using, don't go withdrawal, they're not having any problems. So they let's just say they stay sober. Around 3 weeks later, they start getting these withdrawal side effects: irritability, insomnia, decreased appetite, aggression, cravings. And they say, hey, I can smoke some pot because I'm not addicted. Obviously, I didn't have any withdrawal. So they continue the process. Huge piles of data showing it's a gateway drug leading to other harder drugs, just like alcohol is. Medically, it's very dangerous. The smoke from a marijuana cigarette is 4 times more carcinogenic than the smoke from a cigarette, and people, unfortunately, keep the smoke in their lungs longer to get better absorption of the THC, so there's better absorption of all the carcinogens. Heart attack risk. Most people don't know this. Marijuana increases heart rate. Every time you smoke a joint, it increases your heart rate by 20 to 100%, okay? Which gives you, every time you smoke a marijuana cigarette, you get 5-fold increase in the risk of a heart attack within the first hour after smoking. All right? Major impact on cognitive, impairing physical and mental and cognitive abilities. All these types of problems: impaired short-term memory, difficulty with complex tasks and learning, impaired driving, major problems. Medications for marijuana. No specific anti-addiction medications have been developed for marijuana, but there's a lot of candidates out there in research. These medications, the quetiapine, trazodone, hydroxyzine, and some SSRIs, SNRIs, that can help enhance sleep and reduce anxiety or reduce depression without being addicting. These are very effective medications in partnership with the 12-step and all the other pieces that you use to treat a marijuana addict. These can be very effective at helping a patient stay off marijuana. Opioids. Hopefully everybody knows by now that the main opioid problem currently are the prescription pain pills. Heroin's still a problem, but it's less than 1/4 of the problem out there right now. And it's getting worse. We have 5 different medications currently to treat opioids, which is a lot. We have Suboxone, which is buprenorphine, plus naloxone, which is an opiate antagonist. But it's not, you take this under your tongue, so this isn't absorbed. Subutex, which is pure buprenorphine. Vivitrol, which is an extended release, which we talked about. We use that for alcohol. We talked about oral naltrexone and methadone. Okay, all of these have pluses and minuses, pros and cons. Let's just talk a little bit about it. But first, let's just visually look at what's going on within the endorphin and the opioid system. This is the opioid receptors, and this is the cartoon of the membrane. And these are the opioids themselves. This is Vicodin, Oxycontin, or whatever. Look at the difference in molecules. So this is a man-made opioid that you're putting in your body. This is your endorphin and your enkephalins. These are the different naturally occurring opioids in your brain system. And this receptor here is made for that size molecule. But look, these are 5 or 6 times larger than that. So these bind, but as they bind, they really injure the molecule. Okay, and once they've bound to the molecule, they activate. You give it a high, the euphoria. So the idea here is to put in either Suboxone, methadone, or naltrexone, which is an antagonist, and get in and completely block the ability for these to bind, so you don't have any activation, no higher euphoria. So this is the actual mechanism why naltrexone or Vivitrol might work to prevent opioid relapse. Suboxone, unfortunately, is getting a very unfair bad rap within the recovery community. Suboxone is a great medicine. It's very safe. It's not addicting in addicts who are also in treatment with other treatment components. It removes your cravings within 3 days. If you use heroin or pain pills, it blocks their effects. If you try and take too much, it's punished. You get punished. It's safe for an overdose, and it's really a great treatment for somebody to get started out of the blocks. It also has a mild anxiolytic, a mild antidepressant component, which helps somebody, an addict, early on in recovery. You get stabilized on the Suboxone, you stay on it for maybe 6, 8, 9 months, and then you taper off that, and then you would get on Vivitrol, the injectable naltrexone for a year, and you're in really very good shape. Some people can stay on Suboxone for a long. I have patients stay on it for years. It's not addicting. It's not dangerous to your body. And the people, when they have tapered off, they can't get off of it because their brain injuries, their brain receptors were so injured they got to have some sort of replacement. I will have people that can't get off the Suboxone. We taper them off, wait for about a week, and then put, actually maybe 10, 14 days, put them on Vivitrol, and the Vivitrol works very well as well, and they start feeling normal again. So that's another opportunity to use. Suboxone is very powerful. This is just an image where this is a control person. It's not an addict. All right, this is an opiate addict who has no buprenorphine, and so you can see that the activity in their brain is kind of hyper while they're in withdrawal. You give them 2 milligrams of buprenorphine, and their withdrawal really calms down. By the time you give them 16 milligrams, they have no opiate. It's bound to all their opiate receptors, so no heroin, no prescription pain pills can get in there. They can't get a high anymore. Their cravings are gone. And you can many times get this at a much lower dose than 16, down 8, 10, 12 milligrams per day. Vivitrol does the same thing as in opiates as it is in alcohol, reduces urge to use heroin or pills, blocks euphoria, decreases severity. A relapse, you just have to wait 10 to 14 days after you've stopped opiates before you can get the first injection. All right? So I'm just going to skip a couple of these things here. Let's talk about the comprehensive approach, because I want to make sure we get to this. So what does effective addiction treatment look like in 2012? Answer: a continuum of care that integrates the latest breakthroughs in medicine and then treatment is the key. Sorry, let me read it again. A continuum of care model that integrates the latest breakthroughs in medicine and treatment is the key to achieving long-term sobriety. You have a continuum of care. What do we mean by that? Well, 60% of people who successfully complete traditional forms of treatment will relapse within the first year. Leading cause of relapse is failure to follow a prescribed continuing care plan. So at InterHealth, what we've tried to do is to develop something that hopefully you all are able to develop in your own cities, where it's a consistent, philosophically consistent touch points in the patient's recovery journey. How we have that set up is we have a residential facility, we have outpatient support, we have intensive outpatient support, and we partner with transitional living programs that believe in our philosophy. So no matter where the patient enters, goes up or down the continuum, they're getting this comprehensive approach. All right. The nice thing is the patients aren't being, going to one provider, getting told one thing, and then they go to the outpatient provider and getting told another. And the residential facility is comfortable prescribing, Suboxone for a while because they know they're going to have a provider that can do that on the outpatient basis. So you may not have all these. InterHealth's a little bit unique in that we have all these things in one place, but wherever you're working for, you need to help your patient find these different transitional points that have a consistent philosophical approach. And before I go to that, let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. That is, one time I went with my wife out to California to a tennis camp, and we wanted to play tennis. We went to a 4-day camp, and it was really good. It was out in Orange County. It was really fun. And we came back to Dallas, and for days we had been trained in how to hit the tennis ball a certain way, and we actually gotten pretty good. We came back to Dallas, and now we're going to get a coach to show us how to continue. We get a coach at a local country club or tennis center, I can't remember where, and he started hitting the balls to us, and we started doing exactly mimicking what we learned out in California. He said, "What are you doing? There's no reason. Why? That's completely wrong." And he starts showing us his form of how to become a better tennis player, which is completely different than what we learned in California. That happens all the time in addiction treatment. You're in an outpatient program that has a different focus than a residential, so everybody needs to get on the same page. This is an InterHealth page. This is the National Institute of Health's page. They're trying to get the science out to us, and it's our responsibility to help guide our clients to be able to get access to all the different pieces of treatment. What are those? Well, your traditional treatment model usually gets 12-step AA, which is a good piece, family therapy, which is usually delivered sporadically, but usually only in a group, and usually group or individual therapy, with group therapy being the most because the most common because it's the cheapest. It's more expensive to deliver individual therapy. So if you notice, number one, what's the problem? These are all talking therapies. Okay, they're in general almost all group therapies. Patients have problems with anxiety. A lot of them, they don't like groups, especially if they're untreated with their psychiatric disorders, etc. So the science-based approach that we use at InterHealth and is basically sort of a one-stop shop. And this is what I'm really trying to encourage everybody that's listening on the seminar to understand. You don't have to provide, InterHealth does this, but you don't have to provide all these at your treatment program or in your private practice. You may still just do this or family therapy or in a group therapy, whatever. But the idea is the patient needs all these other pieces to get better, all right? So AA, spiritual support, very important. Family therapy. You all know how different each individual families are. So group family therapy is good because they can help each other and be supportive of each other, but individual family therapy, getting that individual family into therapy and working on their specific issues to a family systems approach is key. Group and individual therapy is really really very important for both components. You don't want all of one or the other. At EnterHealth, we're very heavy, both outpatient, inpatient, and individual therapy, and the patients really seem to respond to that. Add to those three good things anti-addiction medicines, whether it's you or another physician within your program or a physician outside. Psychiatric illness, got to treat that. The brain, the anxiety, the depression will cause relapse. Neurological testing and treatments. We do a lot of neuropsych testing. This is a brain illness. You remember what that SPECT image was showing. The brain is injured. What are the injuries? How can we support that? Wellness nutrition, stress management, very important to help rebuild the body and rebuild the tools to manage stress effectively. We call our aftercare life care. I actually hate the word aftercare because it implies afterthought, as in the treatment after you get out of your intensive phase is not important. We know as a chronic medical disease, you should be in care for life, right? And different tools. We actually, EnterHealth has a e-lesson online website that we provide, through a lot of our tools support online, as well as individual bricks and mortar therapy. Detox is very important to get that done effectively, but once you finish detox, make sure the patient understands detox is not treatment, it's only getting the substance out so you can start all this. Finally, and I'm not leaving the best for last or the least important for last, but medical disease. Alcohol and drug addicts have medical problems. The medical problems are there a lot of times before they get addicted, definitely while they are addicted because of all the injuries alcohol and drugs cause, and usually while they're in their active phase of using, they're not focusing on their meds, and they may leave the healthcare system for 4, 6, 7 years. So when they come back into treatment, a great opportunity to re-engage the medical system. So often, the primary care physicians or specialty care physicians, like say for diabetes or asthma or whatever, are completely separated from the addiction treatment providers. At EnterHealth, we try and re-engage the medical piece, and so we refer everybody to their primary care doctor, communicate them with the primary care doctor very well. We educate them a lot, and that really very helps. So, look, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, and if you divide this up into 2 boxes, AA and spiritual, maybe divide this up into 2 boxes, you actually have 12 components of treatment. All right, and each of these in their own is a whole specialty. But look at this, AA is 1/10, 1/12 of the puzzle. So it's a very important part of the puzzle, but so often that's what's really focused on, and that's not going to cut it because you have a brain illness that needs all these pieces together. And without AA, you're not going to do nearly as well as with it, but you need all these other pieces. And you don't have to do it, you just have to refer. Now, a great tool to be able to show you, actually, before I talk about the tool, we're almost done here. Sort of a summary, let me just show you this. Most people that drink alcohol or use drugs don't get addicted. Only about 10% or 10 to 12% do. Alcohol and drug addiction and many others, gambling, sex maybe, I don't know the science behind those, is a chronic medical disease of the brain. If you use that traditional model, you get about a 30% chance of sobriety because addiction treatment programs are using only, the traditional approach are using 50 to 70-year-old technology. If you treat it as a chronic medical brain disease, like the NIH is telling us we should, we have up to a 90% chance for staying sober and recovery. Big difference, 30 versus 78, 90%. Let's give our patients the best chance of staying sober. So this is the tool. I wrote this book, Healing the Addicted Brain. This is a summary of all the NIH findings, but it's layified them. It takes all their findings and summarizes them, sort of a nice, concise package for the lay public. I wrote it for the patients, but the patients many times are so brain injured early in recovery they can't read and absorb. So the families love this because this is their game book. This is their playbook or their game plan, so to speak, to getting better. If you are delivering parts of that comprehensive approach, let them access the book. The book and you will help them understand what are the other pieces they need to get their loved one to get access to. Psychiatric care, wellness, anti-addiction medications, medical care. Let them get access to all that. So not necessarily with you, but you're sort of the quarterback, the guide, sort of the mentor, the coach to be able to get them to the goal line. And the goal line is basically, it's a long playing field. It's basically the end of their life. So this is available, Barnes & Noble. It's easily available online, et cetera, to get as well. If you have any questions about today's, what what we believe at InnerHealth, or if I know I covered it really fast, you can go to innerhealth.com, also available in some of the social media stuff. Happy to follow up with any of you. Have my email listed in some of the follow-up slides here. And with that, I think I'm going to turn it back over to our project leader.
Thank you so much, Dr. Urschel. That was wonderful. While we let you rest your voice, let's go over some housekeeping items here in these last few minutes we have together. Some participants have already submitted questions, so thank you for those, and we will make sure and provide you with answers to all of those questions on our website. Links to these sites are up on your screen. Please be respectful of Dr. Urschel's donated time and allow us a few weeks to get these questions answered and posted. So keep submitting your questions for the next few minutes while I tell you about some of the upcoming webinars NADAC and Orion have planned for the remainder of the year. Coming up next month is a webinar called Integrated Cognitive Behavioral Therapy for PTSD on October 17th. And then we have Impacts of Addiction on the Family and Children on November 14th. The remainder of the 2012 webinar series is complete and open for registration. We have many exciting topics planned, such as mutual support groups, ethics, families, PTSD, and many more. Visit our websites for full details. All webinars are available for 1 CE, and you can register at www.nadac.org/education/webinars or www.myaccucare.com/webinars. In case you missed one of our previously broadcasted webinars, we have them all archived for free viewing at your convenience. Topics range from SBIRT, medication-assisted recovery, ethics, DSM-5 changes, ASAM placement criteria, and co-occurring disorders. And participants are still able to earn CEs on all archived webinars. Conveniently watch and earn credit for as many webinars as you would like by passing the online CE quiz after downloading the webinar. Check our websites for full listing. Many more educational opportunities and resources are available on our website, including free online courses, face-to-face seminars, and independent study courses. I encourage you to set aside some time and browse and take advantage of these free opportunities. As you may have heard, that Orion Healthcare Technology was awarded the Preferred Vendor Distinction for NADAC and its technology partner for this webinar series. Orion has been chosen as NADAC Preferred Technology Vendor in response to its dedication to providing quality resources and solutions to the field of addiction and mental health treatment. They provide the AccuCare web-based practice management system to help you streamline your workflow across clinical, financial, and administrative functions within your organization. Visit myaccucare.com or call the number on your screen to learn more. Once again, we'd like to thank Dr. Urschel for his time today, and also to find out more information about InnerHealth, please visit the website that is posted on your screen for later viewing. And one more time, briefly for the latecomers, if you wish to receive CE credit for participating, you must pass the online CE quiz that is located at www.myaccucare.com/webinars or www.nadac.org/education/webinars. Certificates are free to NADAC members and AccuCare subscribers. Otherwise, they are $15. This applies to those who are logged on in today's live presentation and those who are watching the archived version. And if you did not get all of your questions answered on this topic, you are welcome to contact myself or Dr. Urschel through the contact information on your screen. Questions regarding NADAC can be directed to Misty Story, and her information is on the screen as well. Finally, when you close the viewing window for this live presentation, a new window will automatically pop up where you will have the opportunity to provide us with feedback about the webinar series. Please take a few moments to help us either improve or maybe praise our presenter. With that said, I will conclude today's webinar. Thank you again for joining us, and I hope you have a great day.